Hey guys, what is up? How are you guys doing? Sitting around here today. It's Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to everybody out there in YouTube land. This is just a spontaneous thing that I started doing this afternoon, and we're gonna see how this goes today. Hey, what's up? Mother's Day live stream event. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Let me know how my volumes are. Here's my guitar. Can you hear that, guys? Can you hear me? Robert, thank you so much. Alex, how's it going again? So my store is closed today. So I'm hanging out at my house, and this is my little studio room that I have here at my house. My dogs are going crazy. But nice guy Eddie, how are you doing today, man? It's a little earlier in the day. It's Mother's Day, and I do have an open mic night event set up for tonight. I'm going to take my mom and my brother and my girlfriend and maybe my son if my son wants to go. And there's this guy named Chris Hyatt, and he's a great, nice guy, Eddie. It's good to see you, man. Thanks for hanging with me. So there's this great blues guy here in the Phoenix area. His name is Chris Hyatt. He does a Stevie Ray Vaughan tribute, and he hosts open mic nights. So tonight, I'm going to take my mom, my girlfriend, possibly my son, but of course my mom and my brother. And we're going to, maybe I can get on stage with him and do a song or something and say, Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Here's a song. I don't know. Hopefully she'll show up and she'll want to participate. But just something to do on a Sunday. I love going to these blues jams. And it just gets you out on a stage for one song or two songs, and it just keeps it going, keeps your blood flowing a little bit. The band that I'm in, we haven't done anything we opened for Rough Ride at BLK Live, but that's going on maybe 6 weeks ago now. Yeah, so let me show you what I got here. So this guitar started off as just your basic Fender Squier. And one of my guitar players in a band that I was in a couple of years ago, he decided, hey man, I'm going to paint a guitar for you, Dane. Now this guitar started off black. And then, I cut the pick guard and I put it all together myself. My quarter's from like 1985 or something, so I'm way off on my date on my quarter. But the headstock, I have a guy who's a friend of mine, and he imported guitars, and he called them SoCal Guitar Works. And I don't know how many of these he imported, but he got maybe 100 or 200. I can't even guess. And I put the neck on this Squier, and it fit really nicely. So I got a little guitar. So a nice guy, Eddie, bought a guitar from me, and you're going to get that guitar tomorrow. They told me if everything goes well with shipping, you were going to get it on Monday, so I'm pretty sure that's tomorrow. He says, nice guy Eddie says, I almost bought a Squier at the pawn shop this week to do the same EVH kind of thing with, but I wasn't sure about the routing. Yeah, the routing has to kind of be the single routing. And if you look at close-up pictures of Eddie's guitar, all the routing up in this area is all really hacked up, but Eddie just pretty much hacked his guitar up to make it work. And this is just, you know what's weird? Now I have 3 guitars, my little hook. I went to Home Depot to get the little hooks here, and they had 2 different sizes, and so I said, okay, well, I guess I'll get this size. And naturally, it's the wrong size, but, you know, they're still kind of cool and whatever, right? I got the wrong size. Tomorrow's new guitar day for Eddie. Thanks again for watching, man. He saw that I had an Epiphone Zach Wild with the circles and everything. And I think you're going to like it. And I noticed that watching the Tone King a week ago, you were like, hey, Tone King, what do you know about EMG active pickups? And you were asking about, you're going to throw active pickups in that thing, aren't you? So talking to my buddy Robert, I do have a Brando cabinet. Right here I got a couple Marshall cabinets. You can see I got 2 Marshall cabinets here. I got a Fender cabinet behind me. This third one's a Marshall cab. This thing down here under my, this is a Mesa Boogie dual rack. And this thing is a Hughes and Kettner. Now this is just extra stuff that was at my store. And I end up bringing stuff down here. This is my old Fender Bandmaster. It's a 1967, and I made a video about it, but it's a funny story. My parents bought me that Fender Bandmaster for Christmas, and I'm going to say 1977 was the year. They got me that Fender Bandmaster, and I also had a little Big Muff pedal, Electro Harmonics Big Muff. And so for living in this little town in Ohio that I lived in, I had the coolest tone out of every kid in that town. And so I had my Fender Bandmaster and my little Electro Harmonics Big Muff. And it was really cool that my parents bought me that for my for Christmas, 1977. I think it was Christmas of 77, and I still have that amp. Although I've gotten rid of that amp. This one right here I'm talking about, this Fender Bandmaster. Okay, so we moved out here. I got the amp for Christmas, 77. We moved out here in 1980. I played a bunch of gigs with that amp. One time I even stuck it, I was opening up for a band, and I even stuck this little amp right here in like this storage unit that was out behind the bar, because I was in the opening band. We had a Friday and a Saturday night show. I was in the opening band, and I stuck this little guitar amp right here, the old Bandmaster. I put it in the shed on a Friday night, waiting, and when I came back Saturday about 6:30, 7 o'clock to get ready for my opening gig, it had rained all night Friday night. I took this amp out of the shed and turned it over upside down, and just tons of water came pouring out of it. And I was like, oh, yeah. So I asked the headlining band, bro, can I play out of your amp, man? My amp got rained on, and he let me. So for one night, I had really good tone, because honestly, this amp, playing bass through this amp right here back in the day, I got passed on auditioning for bands. I'm trying to say that I lost out on getting in a lot of bands because that little Fender Bandmaster, just playing bass through it, I didn't have a very good tone. So that amp got rained on all night. I took it home the very next day. Ben Combs, thank you so much for being on, man. Really appreciate it. So I took this amp home, and I live out here in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's really dry most of the time. And people said, dude, just don't plug that amp in. Just let it chill out, let it dry out. And so I think a month or 2 later, I finally plugged it back in, and it worked fine. And so, long story about my Fender Bandmaster, guys. And then I was in a band around the year 2001. My drummer had a cool recording studio in his house, Pro Tools and everything. we were making a demo, and even though he was my drummer, he still wanted to charge me for studio time. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so I ended up trading him my 1967 Fender Bandmaster for studio time. And so we made a CD, and everything was cool and everything, and so my Bandmaster, I traded it away. And then what was the year? 2000, probably 2015. I'm back at my drummer's old house, and he was in the band for a year or two back in the day. But then 2015, he's like, Dane, I need some work done at my house. And my whole life I've been a tile layer, and I put laminated flooring. So he's like, hey man, put laminated flooring in these 3 bedrooms because I'm buying this new house. I need some work done. And I said, okay. And he's like, how much money do you want to do some work in my house? And I said, bro, give me my old Fender Bandmaster back and we'll call it even. And he's like, okay, I'll do that trade. And so I got my old Fender Bandmaster back. So that thing has been in my possession now since 1977. And I don't think I should sell it anymore, because I did sell it out of my store one time too. And then that guy traded it back in. So it keeps coming back into my life. So if something just keeps coming back into your life over and over again, you need to just keep it, right? Alex, how are you doing? What kind of music were you into in the teens, when I was in my teens? Well, I'll tell you guys, the first record that I ever got my hands on when I was a young kid was Elton John's Greatest Hits. So I used to buy the Greatest Hit albums back in the day. I had Elton's Greatest Hits. I had Alice Cooper's Greatest Hits. I figured, hey, if I'm going to spend $5, $6 on a record, I want to get all the hits, right? I remember I had America's Greatest Hits. And so, it was the 1970s that I was growing up listening to music. My older brother, who's 3 years older than me, he was the one that would bring home the Pink Floyd albums. He was the one that would bring home the AC/DC albums, the Black Sabbath albums. I remember hearing Paranoid and Fairies Wear Boots and all that stuff back in the 70s. But when the 80s rolled around, I was really into that 80s hair metal scene and did all kinds of stuff like that. One time in 1986, the band that I was in, we were called White Lightning, right? And we opened up for Sacred Reich, Flotsam and Jetsam, and Savage Rage. And so we're up there playing 1986, right? I had my guy liner on and everything. And we're up there playing Triumph covers, maybe some Motley covers, which we didn't even tune right for Motley, but we were doing that kind of stuff. And then the next band came on, Savage Rage, and they were thrash. And so in 1986, it was the first time that I heard thrash. And I was looking at the guys in my band going, ay, guys, what are we doing? We are so behind the times. And Flotsam, did a phenomenal show. It was just a great time, but we learned right there and then in 1986, I think, we already felt like the hair metal thing was done. And so we didn't know what to do. We had to figure out if we could play thrash music or not. So it was kind of tough. And as a bass player, you're playing bass, you're boom, 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 boom. And Flea and the Red Hot Chili Peppers came out. So when I started seeing Jason Newsted was in Flotsam, that's right. And when I started seeing Flea just on his bass, I was like, oh man, how can I keep up with this kind of stuff? So I'm kind of my age. I'm kind of in between the 70s classic rock, Ted Nugent and Peter Frampton and all that kind of stuff, Pink Floyd. And then I love the Van Halen stuff that came out, all the Roth Van Halen. And so I feel like I'm kind of right on the cusp of the 80s hair metal kid and the 70s classic rock kid. And then when the 2000s came along, I revisited, because of a girlfriend that I had, I revisited all the music, all the punk rock music that I missed out on. So the Ramones and the Descendants and all the Misfits and all that cool punk rock music that was going on in the late 70s. I was way too involved in hair metal and classic rock to even listen to any of that. So I finally caught up on the punk rock stuff, right around the turn of the century. So it's good to catch up on that old stuff. So, and I do remember Jason Newsted was in Flotsam at the time. And so a few weeks before that gig, it was March Metal Fest 1986. And it was at a little teen club over here in Mesa, Arizona. And me and Jason and a couple other guys were down on Mill Avenue in Tempe. And we were putting flyers on. I remember hanging flyers and stuff. We used to have to do that kind of stuff. We didn't have the internet back there, so we used to put flyers up. I still have that flyer. And we had to buy our tickets from Jason and Flotsam. So long story short, we still owe Jason Newsted like $50 for the tickets that we sold and never paid him for it. Kind of funny. Black Flag still touring with Greg Ginn. That's right. Greg Ginn. So I had a lot of fun. And so, hey, Steve, how are you doing? It is a crazy world out there, isn't it? I went down to my shop this morning. So I had a band practice scheduled. And because it being Mother's Day today, a couple of the guys texted me right when I got up this morning. Practice is canceled. I forgot it was Mother's Day and all this kind of stuff. So I was kind of like, okay, that's cool. I'll go down to my shop. And a cool thing happened at the shop this morning. A friend of mine brought in a GJ2 the Greeny Meanie GJ2. And it didn't have a tone pot in it. And he says, put a tone pot in this thing for me. So I got my soldering iron out and I started and I'm like, you're selling this thing to Guitar Center? And he's like, yeah, but they won't take it without a tone knob put in it. So I'm soldering in a little tone knob and everything. And then I'm talking to him and I'm like, well, how much are you trying to, what's Guitar Center going to give you for this thing? And he's saying, oh, like $800 or something. I'm like, bro, walk around the shop. See if you want to trade, start looking around. So I made a trade with him. After a few minutes, I was like, yeah. So I made a trade and I got a GJ2 in the shocking green color. It's a Greeny Meanie. There's a couple on Reverb for sale. And super happy that I ended up getting a cool guitar today. I should have brought it home with me, but it's still down at the shop. But yeah, it's so fun when you can get a cool guitar and just, I'll tell you guys, having a guitar shop is so much freaking fun when new guitars come in. And then once in a while, it's a little disheartening when you can't make a deal. So another thing that happened today is a nice old guy that has been in my shop before. My shop feels like that little community of the same 30, 40, 50 people in this part of town. They're the people that support me. And it feels like a little neighborhood bar without the alcohol. So that's kind of my shop. But a nice guy came in. He had a box with him. He goes, man, I got a whole box of pedals that have been in my closet. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So anyhow, I looked at these. I went on eBay. I priced all the stuff out. He had Electro Harmonics Pod 2 in the box. And I think I offered him $80 for that. He had a couple Boss Chorus pedals in there, the made in Taiwan, pink labeled ones. And he had he had a Marshall, the Regenerator, I think it is. And I wrote him all out, and I gave him a quote, and he says, "Now, don't be upset if I don't sell them right now." And I said, no, that's fine. And so I gave him an offer, and he stuck them all back in the box, and he walked out with them. So I couldn't make the deal on all the pedals, but I did get a bunch of pedals the other day. And that's one thing that I will continue to do if I'm doing these live streams out of my store, is I'm going to continue to show you all the new pedals that I've recently gotten in the last, in the last week or so. I'll keep holding those pedals up, and I'll keep trying to show you guys what I get. So you guys always can call me, and if you see anything, like Nice Guy Eddie did, he just called me. Hey, this is Nice Guy Eddie. Send me a guitar. And I'm like, okay. So, yeah. He says, I remember going out to flyer for gigs in parking lots and down at all the clubs back in the day. And you live up, what town was that in, Eddie, that you did all that? I'm going to guess Boston area? Or where were you at back in those days? Tim says, I just picked up a Precision Drive, and I love it. Tell me some more about that. Precision Drive. It's a drive pedal. What company? Is it made by a company called Precision? I don't know, man. What else do you know about that? Boston. I had a feeling you were from Boston because you live up in Maine now. So that's kind of the nice... You head north a little bit to get out of the traffic, huh? By Horizon Devices. So Horizon Devices, Precision Drive. That's cool, man. I'll have to check that out. I'll YouTube it. Is there a good YouTube video that you would recommend me watching about the Precision Drive by Horizon Devices? Is there a good video? Who did one? Built-in noise gate. That's cool. Hey, Gerald from San Antonio, Texas. How you doing, man? There's been a lot of rain in Texas. We're going to talk about the weather for a minute, but we're starting to get some dark clouds here in Arizona. And people are telling me that it's been raining in Texas for like 2 weeks. I love rain out here because we don't get it very much. Nice Guy Eddie says, I'm in the market for an MXR dime bag distortion. I have one of those at the store, but I think it takes a 12-volt adapter or maybe an 18-volt, and I don't have the adapter for it. Yep, moved north to get away from the mass holes and the crazy taxes and laws. Yeah. Ben Combs, lots of rain. Where are you at, Ben? You're up in Canada, right? $18 for the dime bag. Yeah, I have one of those, and I don't have the power supply. I imagine I could probably get one off of Amazon or eBay or something, and that would help me sell that pedal because I've had that pedal for a long time now. And I know they make 2 or 3 different ones. Mine is the dark green one that I have. Ben is 100 miles east of Toronto. That's pretty cool. My daughter just recently moved to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So he's kind of up in your neighborhood. She's kind of up there Sort of close. Maybe. I don't know. Tim says, watch the demo by Reba Masad, the Precision Drive. That video sold me on it. Okay, I'll do it. I'm always trying to keep up with the latest thing. I opened my shop 3 years ago. And what's kind of neat is Philip McKnight. I talk about Phil a lot, basically because we're neighbors. He lives in the next city over, which is 10 miles away from me. But he had a guitar shop for about 12 years, just 4 miles up the street from where my house is. So I would frequent McKnight guitars a lot. And then he started making, and I've always been into guitars and stuff like that. And he's been, so he had this shop, and he was a Fender dealer. And when you are just, his shop was 4 or 5 miles away from the local guitar center. So I think being a Fender dealer and being that close to Guitar Center, maybe that was kind of tough. But I bought a lot of stuff from him. And he used to get, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think McKnight used to have factory Fender direct returns. So if somebody bought a guitar and they returned it for some reason, I think Philip might have ended up with a couple of those. And those are the ones that I would buy because I could get American Strats for around $600. And so, yeah, Phil is awesome. And he comes and hangs out at my shop from time to time. And he gives me a lot of advice about the guitar business and what to price stuff at and what stuff sells. Now, I became a Dunlop dealer. And Dunlop, I had to buy $500 worth of Dunlop strings and accessories to become a dealer. But they sell MXR pedals. So I can get MXR pedals, at dealer cost. And I can get way huge pedals at dealer cost. And I can also get all the Dunlop wah-wah pedals because they probably have 100 varieties of wah-wah pedals. So about 2 weeks ago, I made an order, and I called up Nathan, who's my Dunlop guy. And I got 2 of the little mini wah pedals brand new. I got 2 of the EVH Phase 90 pedals brand new. And I bought a carbon copy because I hardly have any delay pedals in my store. The 2 pedals that I cannot keep in my store are delay pedals and reverb pedals. I get those things, and within a week or so, somebody's bought them. And Phil's making fun of me because right now I have 4 DS1 pedals in my display. The whole top row of one of my display cases is all used Boss pedals. And I did a video on my Boss pedal collection a month or 2 ago. But he's making fun of me that I have all these Boss DS1 pedals. But here's the thing. If somebody brings in another Boss DS1 pedal tomorrow and they say, hey, will you buy this? It's a used Boss DS1 pedal. Will you buy this from me? I'm going to say, yeah, I'll buy that. Let's do it. Even though I already have 4, I'll be able to sell those things. And I very rarely do I turn somebody away if they're wanting to sell me an item, because eventually what I've learned in 3 years is that everything eventually I can resell. So Dry Heat 480, he says, where exactly is your store? My store is on the corner of Dobson and Guadalupe in Mesa, Arizona. And it's tucked back in the corner. My rent is really cheap in there. That's the reason I was able to do it in the first place. I got a smoking deal on my lease. Because flipping guitars isn't the most lucrative business in the world. Let's see what else is going on here. Philip is a great guy. See him at NAMM. And here's another thing about NAMM. You know, I got that story. You guys might not have seen the video, but when I went to NAMM, about a week before I went to NAMM this year, McKnight comes into my store and he's like, Dane, I have a gift for you. And he gave me a yo-yo. And it had the Know Your Gear logo on a yo-yo. And so when I went to NAMM, all I took was the clothes that I was wearing. I took my flight information. I took my video camera, and I took my NAMM pass, and I took the yo-yo. Excuse me. And so as soon as I got to NAMM, I mean, that place is huge, right? So I texted McKnight, and I'm like, bro, where are you at? And he's like, I'm over by the Ernie Baugh booth. So by the time I found the Ernie Baugh booth, I'm like, bro, now where are you at? Oh, I'm over by I'm in the Ibanez booth. So finally I see Phil, and he's with Lawrence Petros, and he's with Nathan, an old friend of his that works at PRS now. And the two people, Stephanie and Eric, that own the yo-yo factory, and they're out there and they got their yo-yos going and everything. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll take my camera out and I'll record them messing around with these yo-yos for a few minutes just to kind of vlog. I didn't know what kind. I go to NAMM thinking maybe I can make a video, but I got in there on a Friday. It's so noisy. You can't interview people at NAMM. It's just way too noisy unless you have good microphones and everything. And all I had was my camera. So I record Eric and Stephanie, which I believe is his wife, and they're playing with their yo-yo. And then just about 2 minutes later, Noodles from The Offspring walks by, or walks right here, and I'm like, Noodles, give me a yo-yo trick, bro. And I took my camera out and I recorded him giving me a little yo-yo trick. And then I was like, ding, a little light bulb went off. I'm going to do a yo-yo trick video. And so you guys look back on some of my videos. It's a fun video. I ended up getting Michael Anthony did a yo-yo trick. Steve Luthiker did a yo-yo trick. Jared Dines, guitar, the pedal show guys did one. Chapman did one. All these guys were doing yo-yo tricks for me. So it was a lot of fun. It had nothing to do with guitars. And I think it was a good distraction for some of those guys to play with yo-yos for a little while. Anyhow, so that's my yo-yo trick, Philip McKnight yo-yo video topic. Paul says, do you have a website? And I'm going to have to say no, man. I had a little Wix website or whatever it was. I don't keep up with it. No, too lazy to deal with that. Wow. Dry Heat 480 says, I'm right around Guadalupe and Gilbert. So you're a few miles up the street. Drop in on me sometime. I open at 11 a.m. every day. And even on Sundays, I go down there because I figure, look, I can hang out at my store on a Sunday for a few hours and mess around with guitars, maybe tune a few up, maybe shine some stuff up or whatever. Watch some videos. This morning, I went in my store. I sat behind the computer and I watched the Pete Thorne live stream. I've learned a lot from these live streams, and I've got a lot to learn when it comes to the music business as far as buying and selling amps and pedals and guitars. I've still got a lot to learn, and anything you guys can help me with, I really appreciate it. Mountain Music Man, how are you doing? Finally caught a live stream. You are at work though. Jared says, my Chapman ML1 Traditional on sale. Oh, okay. Another Chapman fan. I'm a huge Chapman guitar fan. I know there's some guys that are like, I'm not really sold on them yet. but I've bought 2 Chapmans off of Reverb, and you get great deals on them sometimes if you can find one. And they show up in the box, and they play really nice. So, and then I went up to Guitar Center last Sunday, and I bought another Chapman. I got an ML1 Pro Modern. And so I'm really on a Chapman kick now. I go on these little kicks where I'm into a brand and I keep them going for a while. And then like these crazy things, I wanted a stripe series. I don't care what kind it was. So I had my friend Rob. I don't know if you're still on with me, Rob, but my friend Rob painted me a Kramer and he striped it. And I'm like, yeah. And now I have 4 of them. Okay, so I'm done. I'll probably keep this one here at my house. And I don't think I'm going to have any more painted. Yeah, I'm over them now. I'll keep this one, and I like it. It plays great. It's a little Squire. But I found a cool neck for it. A friend of mine came to the shop, and he was burning cigarettes out front. So I carried this out, and we stuck a cigarette in there. Rockin' Dave Byron. Hey, have you ever heard of the Epiphone Spotlight guitars? Dubbed the lawsuit guitar. It's a 1988 model and it looks like a PRS. Epiphone Spotlight guitar looks like a PRS. I'm going to have to say no. Haven't heard of that. I do have 2 PRS guitars in the store right now. They're both PRS SEs, but one is the Santana and the other is a Custom 24. But no, man, sorry about that. I ain't never heard of those. Nice Guy Eddie would love to see Chapman make a bass. If he hasn't already started making a bass, he's the kind of guy that's going to start doing it really quickly. I have a feeling he is, he's one of those, he's a people pleaser type of a person. And if everybody asks him enough, he's going to do it. Nice Guy Eddie has a PRS bass. Wow. How many guitars do you have in your collection, Eddie? Rockin' Dave, it ran only for 1 year. You're talking about your Epiphone Spotlight. Ran for only 1 year. You were in Chicago NAMM in 1989. Wow. Fun times. Excuse me, guys. Got a little cough going on today. User not available. What are your opinions on today's music? Pop, rap, etc. Well, I don't listen to any of it. I don't participate in it. I don't watch the Grammy Awards. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. I have no positive or negative opinion against it. I'm glad there's at least music still being created. There's still some good stuff. I'll tell you what, man, I'm a Greta Van Fleet fan. I saw where they were playing at Lollapalooza in Argentina, and I was like, wow, I'm so happy for those kids. Super fun, man. 3 kids from Michigan playing Led Zeppelin stuff. That it's their own stuff, but you got that Led Zeppelin vibe about it, and you gotta love it, man. I'm just totally into it. Gerald, I would love to repair and stripe my Kramer like EVH model, like the one in my hand. Is there a way I can ship it there and get that done? Well, you know what? It's my buddy Rob that was on here earlier. He was in the comments, and it's kind of up to him. He doesn't want to, he just does this out of his garage, and he gives me a smoking deal on this stuff. And stay in touch, and I'll ask him. I don't know, Rob, are you still on with us right now? And he might be able to answer that question. But I traded him, you know what I did is I traded him an old Randall head that he's a huge Pantera fan. He's a huge Dimebag fan. So he wanted this Randall that I have. So I gave him the amp. He already took it home, and I'm like, okay, bro, you owe me a couple of paint jobs. So I have a couple of paint jobs coming. And being out here in Arizona in another 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to be 100 degrees in his guitar. So he's probably more of the, I kind of want to paint a guitar in the wintertime because it's going to be too damn hot in the summer. So your window of opportunity for getting a guitar painted is, we're kind of running out of time right now. But I'll ask him, and I see you talk to me all the time on my live streams, and I thank you for that. So I will ask him, because he usually watches these, and he might even watch the rerun of this. So okay, here we go. Dry Heat 480 says, I'm a Schecter freak. I have a Schecter, I don't know what model it is, but I do have one Schecter at the store. For a while there, I had a bunch of them. So, Rockin' Dave, how's the music scene? My wife and I moved down here from Florida 2 years ago. Oh, wait. Moved down here from Fort Myers about 2 years ago from Chicago. We've done 195 gigs down here so far. Wow. You're doing good, man. 195 gigs? What's the name of your band? Let us in on it. Mountain Man Music. Zim, do you have a reverb page? I heard you mention selling some stuff. Yeah, it's Dane's Gear Locker. And I have 2 or 3 guitars, and I got a bunch of old pick guards and stuff on there. Or I got some pick guards that, there's a guy here in town, and he makes a bunch of pick guards. He's got a CNC machine. His name's Al. And I bought like 2 or 3 boxes of pick guards from him a year or 2 ago. So I have some random pick guards. I think I got a couple Ibanez RG pick guards. And I've got a bunch of old Gibson scratch plate kind of things. So Yeah, so look at Dane's Gear Locker. Rockin' Dave, we did a private show in Tuba City about 4 years ago for the Hopi tribe. The funnest story I have about that Tuba City is, you know, kind of being in some punk rock bands around this town 10 years ago. I'm kind of starting to get out of it. I'm kind of getting a little too old to scream into a mic for an hour. But Northside Kings went up there and played Tuba City. And you guys probably have all seen the video. But the singer of Northside Kings, he punched Danzig right in the face. Do you guys all see that video? And that happened in Tuba City. UFO Freak. I just learned that rock bottom riff a month or two ago. And then 3 or 4 years ago, I was in a UFO tribute band. So I got to play Francis. I was the bass player. And it was a fun gig because there was really no pressure. When you're in a 4-piece band without a rhythm guitar player, as a bass player, you're holding down the foundation. If you forget to go into the bridge or if you miss a part, the band is lost. And it's hard to recover. But in that Scorpions tribute, is that what I said, Scorpions tribute? In that Scorps tribute, as the bass player, I could just follow along. That rhythm guitar player held down I dropped my pick. That rhythm guitar player held the foundation of the song. So as a bass player, I just had to roll around in the background. The toughest part of the gig for me, though, was nobody in the band wanted to sing. So all the background vocals, everybody left it up to me. And there's a lot of background vocals in the Scorpions stuff. And we were doing Rhythm of Love. We were doing, we did about 15 songs. Rock You Like a Hurricane was tough to do. And we even tuned a whole step down. So we were doing the Scorpions in D tuning. And when it came to like There's No One Like You, the singer was having a tough time with some of the Scorpion stuff. That stuff is hard to sing. And then it was up to me to sing all the background vocals. So it was fun for a while. But once I got the store rolling and stuff, I told the guys, I can't rehearse these same 15 Scorpion songs every Sunday. I have things I have to do at my store. And so I bailed out on a band. And what's kind of cool is that band still exists. So the same guitar player, the same drummer, they're still doing it. So I was, I put together a band, and they're called Blackout AZ. But I kind of helped put a band together, and they're still playing, even though I bailed on them about 3 years ago. Scorpions, great guitar playing. Everything the Scorpions did was really good stuff. We kind of concentrated on the 4 albums after Uli John Roth had left the band. So we didn't do any of the early Scorpion stuff. We just kind of did the, the Blackout album, the Love Drive album, and, those big 4 albums that they had right there. Michael Schenker, all that stuff did really good. Paul, did he sing the Scorp stuff with a German accent? I think he tried to a little bit. He'd be like, Phoenix! He would do okay. Nice Guy Eddie sang in a Danzig Misfits tribute back in the day around 2000. It was fun for a while. Right, probably about 2000. Let me think what year it might have been. I'm going to guess 2007, we opened up for Dr. Chug. And I believe that was the original drummer of the Misfits. And those guys totally liked us. And my band was called the Fed Ups. And what you do is sometimes, on that night, we opened up for Dr. Chug. And they're like, hey, we want to go on at like 11 or 11:30. So my band, the Fed Ups, that night, we turned into the Cleanups. So we had to play after Dr. Chug was already done. And I was kind of like, oh man, everybody's going to leave and this is going to suck. But all the guys from Dr. Chug, after their show, they went back into their trailer. They cleaned all the makeup off their face and everything, because every night of the week for those guys is Halloween. And then they came back into the club. They stood right in the front row, and they totally supported our gig all the way through. And it was a great time having those guys, super nice guys. Let's see what else is going on. I saw the Scorps in Virginia. 200 people and played in the stadium. Okay, I'm sorry. I saw them, Scorpions, back in Bristol. Is that what? Yeah, Bristol, Virginia, for 200 people. In front of 200 people. And they played a stadium worthy show. Cool. Alice Cooper got sick. Yeah, have a good band. They're not going to, their performance is going to be consistent if they're in front of 20,000 people, or if they're in front of 200 people. A good band will have a good consistent show and not be down in the dumps that there's nobody there. Rockin' Dave says, do you remember Riot? As an album collector, I do remember Riot. I think they were a Canadian band. I think they were a Canadian 3-piece band. And they had a picture of a little sea otter. No, it wasn't a sea otter. What was on their every album cover? They had the same little animal on every album cover. So I do remember Riot, and they were pretty cool. But they had a little sea otter, or some sort of a little animal on every album cover, which was really strange and kind of cool at the same time. So yeah, I remember Riot. Yeah, Jacob. I'm going to just say Jacob. Way better quality than at the shop. I know it. I have CenturyLink at the shop, and I'm going wireless from my computer to my modem. So what I'm going to try, and here at my house, I have Cox Communications. My son pays for it. He's a gamer. He does all my video editing. Big props to my son, Brighton. He pays for the internet here at the house. He's 23 years old. I make him pay a bill. He's a big gamer, and he's not going to put up with me having very slow internet. So yeah, he pays the internet here, and so I have much better quality here if I do some live streams, and I got a little microphone hooked up and everything. And so you can hear my dogs barking in the background and stuff. So anyhow, yeah, thank you for that. I got better quality. I'm glad to hear that. I'm still probably here's what I'm going to do at the store. I'm actually going to get a cable, and I'm going to go from my modem and plug it into my computer, and I think that might help a little bit. Riot was an awesome band. They were from New York. Okay. And Mark, who was the singer of Riot, was laid to rest in San Antonio, Texas. For some reason, I thought they were a Canadian band. Nice guy Eddie says, I bummed a rolling paper off of Bob Weir once, and he gave me the whole pack. Well, he was the Grateful Dead was dedicated to making their fans happy. I will say that. And the old PA system. Do you remember I seen the Grateful Dead once, probably in '83 or '84 or something like that. Jerry Garcia was still with them, but I remember seeing videos about their wall of sound PA system that the Dead used to carry around. It took them like 20 trucks to carry this, but each person in the band had their own PA system, and they would just stack everyone on top, and they had this huge wall of sound. That would have been really cool to see that back in the day. I did not get to see that, but they couldn't do it. But they the wall of sound that the Grateful Dead took around with them. Yeah, they loved their fans. Their fans were everything to them. I went to the show in 1981. I knew the song Truckin'. I knew the Cocaine song, right? High on Cocaine song. Was that Truckin'? And I knew, of course, the Touch of Grey, big MTV hit that they had. The two drummer thing, I didn't really understand why you needed two drummers, but I think it was just because they were like, hey man, we could have two drummers. Let's go for it. And, but I wasn't a huge fan. Honestly, I went there to see all the pretty girls in the sundresses dance around in the grass. It was an outdoor stage. It was at the Compton Terrace, the old Compton Terrace in Phoenix, Arizona at Legend City. And so it was an outdoor event, and it was just a huge event. And so I went to that basically just to see all the pretty girls dancing around. Yeah. Rock and Dave, gotta go. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. And I've been going for an hour now. Woo, almost an hour. 19 people watching. Thank you guys so much. I am going to wrap it up. I'm going to go take a shower. I'm going to get ready to go to my open mic tonight. It's Mother's Day. I think I'm going to drag my mom out to the club tonight. It's not really a club. It's more of a sports bar kind of a venue. And it's at the Bench, which is it's in Tempe, Arizona at McClintock and Baseline. Starts at 6 o'clock. The band is the Chris Hyatt Blues Band. They host the open mic night. And I'm going to say Happy Mother's Day, Mom. And I'm going to play a song for her. I've been playing Melissa by the Allman Brothers a lot. I have my karaoke songs or my open mic songs, and I'll try a song 2 or 3 times. And when I feel like I did a pretty good job at playing that song, then I'll move on to something else. My song right now is Melissa by the Allman Brothers, and I'm very close to possibly playing the Gary Moore, I Still Got the Blues for You song. I'm getting close. I will probably butcher it if I tried it tonight. I need to keep rehearsing, but so if I get the guts, I might try the Gary Moore I Still Have the Blues for You song. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, right? And I will catch all you guys later. Gonna go take a shower and get ready for my blues jam tonight. So we will catch all you guys later, and thanks again.